All right, ready to dive deep into something kind of wild.
Oh, always up for a wild ride.
We're talking psychedelic drug scene and rave culture, but not the usual stuff.
Let me guess, we've got some secret documents, leaked FBI files, or...
Even better, we're going straight to a first-hand account. There's this crazy blog post, I was the one who knocked, on transam.org.
Transam.org sounds promising already. So this blog post is written by...
Someone who was right there in the thick of it all, dealing and raving.
You know, that's what makes these deep dives so fascinating, getting that unfiltered perspective. It's not some polished memoir. It's raw and real.
It's a total trip. This guy's life, bouncing between Austin and New York, is crazier than any movie I've seen.
And it's not just about the shock value. It gives us a glimpse into a world most people only see in stereotypes. We can unpack the complexities of drug culture, the appeal of the rave scene, and how someone can find their own path, even in the craziest places.
Exactly. It's not just about drugs and parties. It's about personal transformation.
Right, and it's all about understanding, not judging.
All right, so the story kicks off in Austin, late 80s, University of Texas, college life, but not your average frat parties.
So what was he into? Secret societies?
Even weirder, he ends up hanging out with a group of skinheads.
Wow. Unexpected turn right off the bat. Why skinheads?
Well, he was a bit of a troublemaker himself, looking for, I don't know, some edge. But he also saw a way to use them. Basically, they became his protection as he started dealing.
Dealing what? We talking to hardcore stuff already?
Started small, weed, and speed. But he thought LSD would be, I guess, less hassle.
LSD and skinheads. That's a combo I wouldn't have predicted.
There's even this crazy story about him making a fake Nazi flyer as a joke.
A joke? Seriously?
Yeah, dark humor. But it shows that weird mix of rebellion and, honestly, apathy he had back then.
Well, apathy or not, dealing LSD, especially to minors, is some serious stuff. It's where things get ethically murky fast.
He knows it. And the racism and homophobia he encountered, not just from the skinheads, but from the cops, it's chilling.
Yeah, the authority figures are supposed to be the good guys.
He even talks about a cop threatening him with sexual assault while he was in jail. Then there's this moment when he enters the jail and an inmate shouts, "Hey, that blonde!" like he was marked.
Damn. That's a harsh reality check.
It really shows the violence and dehumanization he was surrounded by. But he doesn't shy away from his own responsibility, you know? He's wrestling with his guilt, trying to justify his actions. And that's when he turns to anarchism.
So jail was a turning point. From petty dealer to political rebel.
It seems like it. He gets involved in campus activism, starts writing for student papers, even vandalizes the Jefferson Davis statue on campus.
Vandalism, huh? Seems like a step up from fake Nazi flyers.
He even planted a fake bomb as a protest. Thankfully, nothing happened, but it makes you wonder how far he was willing to go.
Yeah, that's crossing a line. Did that scare him straight?
Maybe. He backs off from the more extreme stuff and spends some time squatting, growing weed.
Back to basics. But I'm guessing the quiet life didn't last.
Nope. The big city was calling. He wanted more. So he heads to New York, and that's where things get really interesting.
You know what gets me? He makes it in New York, lands a sweet advertising gig, goes to fancy parties, but he's still miserable.
It's like he traded one kind of rebellion for another, fitting in with the corporate crowd but feeling totally empty.
Yeah, like he was playing a part, but it wasn't him, and that's when the rave scene pulls him back in.
It's more than just the music and the party scene, right?
Way more. It's about community, belonging, something outside the mainstream. He even mentions Terence McKenna.
Oh yeah, the psychedelic philosopher guy.
Right. He was all about exploring consciousness. So our guy wasn't just looking for a good time. There was something deeper going on.
So he dives headfirst back into raving. He even starts buying these, what were they called, brain machines?
Yeah, those glasses with the flashing lights.
He'd set them up at parties. But there's this incident with Sasha and Digweed's manager at Twilo.
Twilo? Wasn't that place legendary?
Totally. Anyway, the manager shuts him down, worried about people having seizures from the lights.
Understandable, I guess.
But it pushes him further into the underground towards the more, I don't know, hardcore side of trance.
That's our trance, right.
Faster, more psychedelic, a whole different vibe. And that's where he runs into trouble again.
More trouble.
Yeah, he talks about this gang, the BTS, Brooklyn Terror Squad. They were basically terrorizing ravers, stealing, starting fights.
So what does he do? Call the cops?
Not exactly. He remembers his skinhead days in Austin, and he decides, I'm going to protect these people.
Wait, he becomes like a vigilante?
Kind of. He uses intimidation, sometimes even LSD, to scare off the bad guys.
LSD as a weapon. That's a new one.
There's this crazy story about a bridge party where he confronts these thugs who were robbing people.
I can't even imagine. So he just tells them to scram.
Pretty much. He says, "Stop or I'll shut the whole party down." Then he offers them LSD as a peace offering.
Seriously? What did they say?
Apparently they took it and it worked.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
That's wild. But also kind of messed up. I mean, is he a hero or just adding to the chaos?
It's a tough call. He even starts this shit list on his website, naming people he thought were harming the rave scene.
Wow, judge, jury, and executioner all rolled into one. But it shows you how this underground community worked. No cops, so they had to police themselves.
Exactly. But it led him to do some even riskier stuff. He buys a massive amount of LSD from an old contact.
How much are we talking?
Enough for 10,000 doses.
Whoa. And where does he keep all this LSD?
This is the best part. Pez dispensers.
Pez dispensers, you're kidding, right?
Nope. He had a whole tennis bag full of them.
And he's just handing these out at raves. Talk about a trip down memory lane.
It gets weirder. He puts drops of LSD on a Salvador Dali painting.
Wait, what? Like the actual painting?
Yep, the persistence of memory, that melting clock one. He basically turns it into a giant psychedelic lollipop.
Okay, that's next level weird.
He even says Salvador Dali's nephew saw the whole thing and thought it was hilarious.
So it's all fun and games until...
Until the ketamine addiction takes over. He's injecting it constantly, and things start to get really dark.
Ketamine's no joke. What was he experiencing?
He talks about traveling to some intergalactic plane, being a point man for alien intelligences.
Sound like he was in deep.
And his living situation was a mess, too. He was squatting in a rundown building in Tribeca.
Squatting in Tribeca.
Yeah, the place was trashed, constant parties, drugs everywhere. He even broke into an empty apartment next door, found a mannequin, a harpoon, piles of sweaters.
Mannequin, harpoon. What was going on in that?
Who knows? It was a whole other world. But that's when reality hits hard. He gets evicted, the cops show up, and they find everything.
Oh, man. That's going to be the worst nightmare for a guy like him.
The ketamine, the Pez dispensers, the whole shebang. He's facing serious charges.
Game over, right?
You'd think he's screwed, right?
Totally. But here's where things get crazy. Remember those bottles of liquid LSD? The ones he stashed in his speakers?
Yeah, those.
Well, the cops never found them. They took the speakers, thought it was just DJ equipment.
Wow. Lucky break.
Talk about hiding in plain sight. But the real twist is the Pez candy.
Oh, yeah, the lab results.
The LSD had degraded so much it tested negative. Can you believe it?
Seriously, all that trouble for nothing.
It's like the universe was giving him a second chance. And his lawyer, this high-priced guy, he knew how to play it. He paints this picture of our guy as a victim caught up in the party scene.
It was right after 9/11, so the cops probably had bigger things to worry about.
Exactly. So somehow, against all odds, the charges get dropped.
He gets off scot-free.
Pretty much. He even gets some of his stuff back from the squat, though the speakers and some other gear were gone. He crashes with a friend who's involved in the mermaid parade, which is a whole other story.
Mermaid parade.
Yeah, crazy costumes, music, the whole works. But even with this legal win, something changes in him.
He has a realization.
Yeah, he sees that this lifestyle, the risks, the drugs, it's not sustainable. He hit a wall and knew things had to change.
So what does he do?
He rejects both extremes, the corporate world and the reckless rebellion. He chooses a middle path. Sobriety. Self-reflection.
That's a big shift.
It is. He realizes that real freedom isn't about external stuff. It's about finding balance within yourself.
So where is he now?
Sober for a decade, no criminal record, and guess what? He's going back to New York.
Back to the scene of the crime.
Not exactly. He's leaving the chaos behind, but taking the lessons with him. It's a hell of a journey.
It really is. This story really flips the script on what we think about psychedelic drug dealers.
Right. He's not some cartoon villain.
Yeah?
He's complex, flawed, but ultimately human.
And it makes you think about subcultures, the good and the bad, the search for belonging, and the potential for both destruction and growth. So as we wrap up, what do you think, listener? What stuck with you from this deep dive?
Maybe it's a reminder that even in the darkest times, there's always hope, a chance to turn things around. Or maybe it's a challenge to look past labels, to see the humanity in everyone, even those we might judge.
Or maybe it's just a simple message. Find balance in your life, avoid the extremes, and embrace the messy, unpredictable beauty of being human.
Well said, and that's what makes these deep dives so worthwhile. More questions than answers, pushing us to reflect on our own experiences and the crazy tapestry of life.
Thanks for joining us on this one. It's been a wild ride.
I